Hello, welcome to One Man's Tracks. Today I've got another throwback album review for you. It's a classic coming to you from a man by the name of James Todd Smith, better known as LL Cool J, which is short for Ladies Love Cool James. He began rapping already at age 9 and was producing demos and mixtapes in his grandparents' home in Queens at age 16. Signing on to Def Jam as one of their flagship artists in '84, he would come out with his smash hit debut, Radio. The success of that album would not only help legitimize Def Jam as a label, but would also help solidify Rick Rubin, his producer's legacy as a pioneer in the hip-hop genre. His next two follow-up albums, while pretty successful in their own right, they threatened to see LL shift a little bit too far towards pop superficialities and maybe leaned a little bit too hard on the funkier R&B type ballad numbers. Less of that hard-hitting b-boy style verbose lyricism that made him pop in the first place. He'd team up with Marley Marl in 1990 and come out with an album that would silence the haters and cement himself as a pioneer in his own right and establish himself as a young veteran in the field of hip-hop with this. This is his fourth studio album through Def Jam Records in Columbia. LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out. Just a whirlwind of bumping beats, innovative hooks. There's some cartoonish rapping alongside his usual harder delivery, but it always stays smooth. The production just erupts as LL's loud, steady flow smolders in your mind even days after listening to this. I don't see any sense listing Mr. Cool J's many accolades at this point because I'm here to get into these tracks. LL and Marl don't waste any time because they kick things right into gear with the instantaneously funky beat on the boomin' system. This first single that samples James Brown and Public Enemy creates an atmosphere that is precisely as advertised. Strictly for frontin' when you're driving around. If your car has a boomin' system, this is what it's waiting for. Then my favorite of LL's R&B influenced numbers, it's also his first top 10 single, Around the Way Girl. It samples the song All Night Long as well as the song that song samples, Rising to the Top. Around the Way Girl brings this album above my expectations and convinces me that the Marley Cool J combo might be the best production that any of his 13 album catalog had on it. But that said, I have only listened to about 7 of his albums at this point. Give me a break. There's a lot of LL Cool J music out there. Eat 'em Up, L, Chill has a bit of a mixed message when it comes to a title, but it still feels succinct. The slower, surefire, aggressive bars are contrasted by the chill refrain. This one still bangs, but it's just not as explosive as the first two. He piles on the My Rhymes Are Slick theme, adding in his signature Steal Yo Girl energy on the track Mr. Goodbar. Honestly, as smooth as this one is, it falls into the category of aged a bit corny with some skits and some iffy bars in it. Still, the man's got flow and I can't resist this offbeat bass line on this. Then you've got a faster battle rap that's featured on the track Murder Graham, with some House of Pain-like squeals and a big beat. This is an all-out rap barrage that hits you so fast you'll need a couple listens to get your ears really around this one. I don't find cheesy rap blues all that memorable, maybe besides the few lines where Run the Jewels found their name, or maybe the line, Pocket a raw steak. That one gives me a chuckle, but that's about all I get out of this one. And as much as I respect James repping his hood on the track Farmers Boulevard that has some featuring artists from Queens, it doesn't add a whole lot to the track list. Maybe it's the fact that the title track comes after it is the reason I moved past those two so quickly. The line Mama Said Knock You Out originated when his grandmother actually told him to knock those critics out. Always a firm believer in his artistic vision. It certainly did knock out the critics, winning him a Grammy for Best Rap Performance. This has some more James Brown. It's got Sly and the Family Stone, Chicago Gangsters, Digital Underground, all pieced together to form this 90s classic. Now he lightens things up with the hilarious and catchy Milky cereal. It's just clever lines making innuendo about cereal. Obnoxiously creative and fun, and it's followed up by the final single from his third album. This one's Jinglin' Baby. I struggle to find the differences between these songs, besides maybe there's a little bit more texture on this one. They have the same chorus, same vibe, but just different lyrics in the verses. Both good songs. It's time for the true diss track off this album. It was previously released but made it onto the track list, titled To the Break of Dawn. He takes aim at rappers like Kool Moe Dee and MC Hammer, Ice-T, and he doesn't make a loud or obscene mix. It's more laid back and funky, sort of the attitude where he's just gonna casually drop an essay on these MCs and not really think too much about it. A big power move in my opinion. The final single that came off this CD is titled 6 Minutes in Heaven, and it was unfortunately the least successful of the whole bunch, with it being another one of those R&B influenced cuts. It only charted at 95. I really like the production, and the chorus is excellent. The instrumental alone is worth listening to this track for, so don't skip it, but it just doesn't hit as hard of his more gangster rap approach to tracks. The next song, Illegal Search, just feels like a crappier version of One Time's Got No Case, and it just doesn't fit in thematically or beat-wise with the rest of this album. I'm not sure what it's doing here. If I had to pick one to take off the track list, it would be Illegal Search. Closing out with the return to smooth, deep form on The Power of God. And again, an on-the-nose title, with this one being about finding God and being saved from desperate situations. Ultimately, this one's about unity. It's not specific or overly preachy or anything like that. It's got good bars. If not from the Bible or Quran, get a book from college. It's not about being black or white. It's about everyone being alright. Softly, smoothly, like a mother, he lays your head down and turns out the lights. And then pow! You know it, it's a knockout of an album, not a comeback. He kept at the hip-hop game for many years after this, with 8 following releases through Def Jam Records, and then another release in 2013, the feature dense Authentic. What else is there to say, really? The man's an icon. He's got a true rags to riches story. Through the critical success of this album, he started landing more acting roles and is probably what you know him for nowadays. If you didn't know about his hip-hop, you probably know him as the longtime star of the show NCIS as Special Agent Sam Hanna. But he came up with the likes of the Beastie Boys, Run DMC. He's a true pillar of hip-hop. I guess his influence has simply been overshadowed by just how much of a mainstream name LL Cool J has become. I've certainly gotten a newfound respect for the man through doing this review, getting some research into his past. I'm now curious of what your thoughts are about James Todd here. Do you know him from his NCIS days? Do you know him from the past days of hip-hop pioneering? I'd love to know your thoughts down below, your memories of Mama Said Knock You Out, or any other tracks you really enjoy off this album. While I've got you, make sure you've liked and you've subscribed for next week's secondhand special. You're not going to want to miss out. Here's a playlist of more 90s reviews I've done, some more great albums over there, and just another one that YouTube might think you'll enjoy. Right here, link to subscribe in case you haven't anywhere else, and I look forward to seeing you next week. For now, we're gonna let Al eat 'em up and then chill. Hey girl, I know what you're thinking, I know what you hear, but I ain't saying nothing. I need an around the way girl.